All right, for today, this is about word problems fundamentally, but sometimes the words are just giving you a sequence and asking you to do something. So sometimes the word problems aren't like impossible. So what if I told you in words? That's what I'm going to do right now, so pay attention. You have to write it down because it would be these words. You have a sequence that starts with 2. You don't know what it's going up by because the next term is 7.2. Your teacher tells you it's geometric. Can you find the sum of the first 7 terms? All right, so you better write down the key things. The first term was 2. You don't know how it's going up, but it's going up to 7.2, and you know it's geometric because your teacher told you so. Find the sum of the first 7 terms. Almost every problem on this test requires you to figure out what formula to use, write down the formula, stick in the numbers. That's what you should be doing right now, is trying to figure out, well, which formula is this? And then look at the formula and go, well, I guess I need R. What the heck is R? And then what's U1? And all right, so let's see if you're using the right formula. Since it's geometric, you got a choice of 3. Underneath geometric, we have UN and SN and S infinity. Since this is not an infinite sum, but it is a sum, you want the SN formula, which goes like this. U1 parentheses R to the N minus 1 over R minus 1. Now, there's some gotcha parentheses that aren't there and won't be there, but you need to know where they go. Mr. Nichols, do you remember where they go?
Yep.
Where?
It's below. Is it below?
Yes. They have to be parentheses there. Or if you typed it in exactly the way it was, it would mark it wrong. Why? Because we want to do R minus 1 first. That's what the parentheses are going to do. They're going to force that to get done first before the divide by sign here. So all that parenthesis does is makes you do R minus 1 first before the green divide happens. All right. So then U1 is easy. Oh, this is easy. I know the first term is 2, so I stick a 2 there. And then that's where you get stuck with R. What the heck is R? Well, R is telling you it's a ratio. Did you take 7.2 divided by 2? Who knew that that's what you're supposed to do? Raise your hand if you did. Okay, awesome. Then from there, this question's pretty easy. 7.2 divided by 2, turning on my calculator, is 3.6. 3.6 is the R. I'm going to put it in parentheses because Mr. Server said if you're in doubt, every variable has a parenthesis. And then it's to the N, and that's one of the harder ones. What the heck is N? Well, they told you 7 was important. That's N. The 7 terms, that's N. N is this. S sub 7, N is 7. And then R minus 1, well, R was 3.6. You would not have figured this one out in your head. Very difficult. So I can do this in my head. 3.6 minus 1 is 2.6. I could definitely do that in my head. So I'm going to take my whole equation and then do divide by 2.6 at the end. The rest of it on the top, I'm definitely going to put that in the calculator. 2 parentheses, 3.6 parentheses to the power of 7. And then minus 1. And the parentheses. Now I got the whole top done. I typed in exactly what was on the top, and I'm going to get the answer. And it's 15670. 0.83 blah blah blah. I'm just going to leave it in my calculator because it doesn't say where to round yet. And besides, if you're going to round, you should only round at the end. So I'm going to leave that whole thing in the calculator and then divide by 2.6. Did you get 6027? At least it would round to 6027. Who had 6027? Nice. Okay, cool. There's a first word problem, and it was just a sequence. I just told you the sequence using words, and I didn't give you 3 numbers. I only gave you 2. Yes?
Can I go pick someone up from the main office, please?
Got to show me a hub pass. Anytime you want to leave, they're making it extra clear. Don't let the kid leave unless they have made a hub pass. Go ahead. All right, so here's question number 2. I was surprised that this was the one that got the most questions on the day I was gone was write a recursive rule, or I found out we're going to call it a formula on the test. Write a recursive formula for this, and it is weird because there's a negative in it. What the heck? Write a recursive formula for this. In case you forgot, this is the one that somewhere in the answer is going to say u sub n minus 1. How many have an answer? I promise not to call on you, but I just want to see if you're done. Okay, cool. All right, let's see if you knew what I was talking about. Did you include u1 equals 2? You have to if you're going to write one of these deals. Because if you don't know the first starting term, then you can't give somebody the sequence. And then what are you multiplying by each time? So it needs to be in a parentheses like this. If you without those parentheses, it's wrong because then you mean minus 4. All right, who had it right? Raise your hand if you did. Sweet. All right, good. Next up. Let's see if you're good at sigma. It's going to be at least one of these on the test. I equals 1 to 3. That's what we would say there. With a 4i here. I shouldn't have to tell you what to do. That is the problem. If you know what to do, you tell me what it equals. Give this a shot. Nothing else you can write the problem down. This is kind of a sandwich between 1 and 3. The lowest it goes is 1 and the highest it goes is 3. And then what's in between is 2, of course. And so you're going to stick in 1 and 2 and 3. When I say stick in, there's only one logical place to do it, and that's where the variable is. So if I stick a 1 in there, I get 4. If I stick a 2 in there, I get 8. And if I stick a 3 in there, I get 12. And you just add them all up, and it adds up to 24. Who had 24? Raise your hand if you had 24. All right, cool. That's what a sigma problem is like. All right, next up. Same thing except in reverse. 6, 9, 12, 15, period. Like, it doesn't keep going. Very few people figured out how to write the sigma for this. I'm going to give you this hint that might make it better. I did always say to start with I equals 1 down here. You got to figure out what goes up there. And I did always say there'd have to be an I. I told them that last hour. The kids were like trying to put a 6 here, and it wouldn't work. Because when you put in 1, it gives you 6. But when you put in 2, the next number, it gives you 12 and it skips over the 9. So don't put a 6 there. Well, if you're not going to put a 6 there, I'll just give you this hint, and maybe this will be enough. What does it go up by each time? Then start with the 3i, but it has to be more than that, because when you put the 1 in, it's not going to give you 6. So it has to be a little more to this answer. Now, this is kicking your butt. I understand. That's why I felt like we're not ready. There's too many things like this where half the class is going on. I'm not sure what to do here. All right. Put you out of your misery, because I know a ton of kids are just like, I don't know what to do. Would you agree there's 4 terms? Then you got to stick in 4 numbers, right? So if you stick in 1, that's going to give you one of the numbers. And then 2 and 3 and 4. So that's a 4. Who had figured out that that had to be a 4? Good, okay. Then when you stick in 1, you're not getting the right thing. You're just getting 3, which is 3 short of 6. But when you put plus 3 there, now you'll get 6. And then when you put in a 2, you can just check it and see if I put in 2, is it going to give me my next number? 3 times 2 is 6 plus 3 is 9. Look at that. And you'll put in the third number, which is 3. You get 9 plus 3 is 12, and it's working. Put in the last number, which is 4, and you put it here, and you get 4 times 3 is 12 plus 3 is 15. Cool. All right. I think we need to practice this a little bit. One thing you can know for sure, this is always I equals 1. This is always how many there are. And when you stick the 1 in, it has to give you the first term. All right, so let's do one more like that. This one starts with 10. Adds 5, goes to 15. 20, 25, and 30 with a period, meaning it stopped. It's not going to do any more. And I want you to make a sigma to add all these up. Just a second ago, only a few you had. Maybe we can get that up to almost there. Jordan, I think you're getting too overheated back there. Put your get your jacket off, or put your hood down or something, whatever it takes to stay awake. All right, so let's do I equals 1. And then, well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms, so then I have to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and that's 5 numbers. Okay, cool. And then there has to be an I here. And did you catch it's going up by 5 each time? So then if I put in a 5 here, but then when I actually put 1 in, I only get 5. That's not quite enough, so I'm just going to add 5. And let's just make sure it actually works. When I stick in 2 then, the next number, I get 10 plus 5 is 15. It looks like it's working. Raise your hand if you figured that out. Awesome. Okay, good. That's a topic called sigma that you got to know. All right, now this one, I started yesterday, and then I kind of gave up because on my first hour, it was kicking their butts too hard. So this is what I think must be the hardest question. But it's one of those weird ones where it starts out really difficult, but once you know what to do, once you see how to do it, it'll be like super easy. Okay? Weird mix. Starts out hard to understand, but once you understand the question really, you'll get it. And it'll be an easy one, even though it's one of the hard ones. Okay. There's 8 seats, write this down, in row 3. There's 17 seats in row 6. How many seats in row 15? All right, now, one of the keys to this problem is you have to use a formula. It'll say in the directions, you gotta use a formula. So right now, would you just pick out which formula? There has to only be one formula on that whole sheet that could work out. Just look at your sheet and try to figure out, well, could it be this formula? No, it has to be this guy. Oh, then it must be on this other column. And if it's in that column, which formula does it have to be? Take a second, write down your best guess on which formula this has to be. And just copy that formula down. That's step 1, because even if you figure it out in your head with no formula, I can't give you points. Because we don't want people to just guess and check. Or cheat. All right, so if you're picking the formula and you're torn, you should be asking yourself, well, it's got to either be arithmetic or it's got to be geometric. Eight in row 3, going up to 17 in row 6. It's hard to tell whether it's arithmetic or geometric until you draw out a picture for yourself of this situation. Honestly, this is exactly what I would do. Draw yourself a little stadium. You get more in every row. This is actually true when you have stadium seating like this. The front row doesn't have that many people in it. The back rows can be huge. And this is row 3 has 8 seats. Row 4, 5, 6 has 17 seats. You don't have to keep going forever, but this will help a lot. Now, what must it be going up by? And you might just play around and go, is it going up by 1? Then it'd be 8, 9, 10, 17. Clearly, that's not working. Is it going? Maybe it's going up by 2s. Teachers like 2s. 8 plus 2 is 10. Plus 2 is 12. No, still not enough. I bet it's 3s then. Who figured out it was 3s? You were right. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. See? Must be going up by 3s. Now, there's a way you can do this with complicated math, but I don't want to make it complicated. You can just figure it out. Must be going up by 3s. Then, you now know that this is going up by 3s, which is a common difference. And that means there's only one formula that can work now. Is this about adding up all of the rows in the theater? Did you ever hear me say that? No. So then it's not a sum. So if it's got a common difference, D, and it's not about summing them all up, then it must be this formula. UN equals U1 plus D times N minus 1. Cool. If you can just use this formula now, it'll guide you to getting the answer. And at first you might be like, well, what the heck is U1? They didn't tell me U1, but you could figure out U1. You just have to back up a little bit, and if it's going up by 3s, you can go back and back. And once you know U1, you could put that in. We already know the common difference. That goes in the formula. And then remember the whole point of the question. I told you row 15. That has to go in the formula somewhere. Figure it out. There's a person I don't want to say your name, but headphone in, let me stick them out. You know who you are. Please don't make me come over to you personally. You have a headphone in, take it out. All right. U1, if I back up by 3s, this would be 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Row 1 had only 2 seats in it. All right. So that's a 2. And the common difference was 3. And I told you have to use the 15 somewhere. Row 15 means U sub 15, and that's a 15. See how it all comes together if you have the right formula? The formula will guide you to what you got to figure out. You had to figure out what was in the first row. We knew the common difference already. And the 15 had to go somewhere, and there was only one spot left. Okay, cool. From there, you and your calculator should be able to do 2 plus 3 times 15 minus 1 is 14. 42, 44. Raise your hand if you had 44. Cool. Now, I give you a lot of little helps with that one. There, and I've double checked it. This is the right answer for this question. There's 44 in the 15th row. Now, I'm going to give you another one that's basically the same thing, just with different numbers, okay? And you see if you remember how to do it. Hardest question on the test can turn into an easy one. Okay, here we go. Third row is 12. Seventh row is 20. What's the 15th row here? I would draw the little stadium. I really think it helps. Helps me. I'm a math teacher. You got this. With you trying hard both today and tomorrow, And then if you do actually practice on the weekend, you should be able to pull off the A. That's why I thought it was worth a whole extra day of review. Get kids that would have got a C up to an A, that's a huge difference. It could set you up for an easy end of the year right here. You really try hard today and tomorrow, and then just do a practice test on the weekend. You can have a grade that is so set that when we have a few easy tests in math, you can end out the year coast to a nice, easy, good grade. But alternatively, you just sit back today and you stay confused tomorrow and you don't ask any questions and you don't practice this weekend, you'll probably be setting yourself up for a really rough end of the year in math, because then you'll have a test that you failed that's really hard. And then you'll have to come in and do a retake of that test. And that's going to take a total of about 3 hours to do corrections, come in extra in the morning and learn how to do it, and then take it again. Why not try hard for the next couple days to prevent 3 hours of retaking? Okay, that's all I'm asking you to do is try. Row 1, I don't know. Row 2, I don't know. Row 3 is 12. Row 4, 5, 6, 7 is 20. I think it's just going up by 2s. Can anybody verify that? Okay. So this would be 14, 16, 18, and 20. Perfect. It's going up by 2s. That means D is 2. That reminds me, it's a common difference. There's only some formulas that have D in it. In fact, there's only 2. And we aren't adding them all up, so it must be this one. UN equals U1 plus DN minus 1. I have the common difference already. It's 2. I already know that I want the 15th row. So that's 15. 15. It's a lot like last time. What don't I know yet? U1, which I can figure out. Go back by 2s. This would be 10. This must be 8 in the first row. 8. 8 plus 14 times 2 is 28. 36. Raise your hand if you had 36. Nice. Okay. If that kicked your butt and it's like, oh, I don't get that at all, come up. I'll show you one more in person, one-on-one. I'm telling you, it's way easier one-on-one. I can explain it to you one-on-one. All right. Now, there's one last problem that is hard, and I think you're at the point where I got to do the last hard one before you get too exhausted and your brain can't work anymore. All right, so here is the directions for your last word problem. The common difference, you can abbreviate this if you want, is 5. I didn't tell you what the sequence is, but I told you that it goes up by 5s. Okay? The sum of the first 6 terms is 135. It would have been really nice if I would have just given you those 6 terms, but I didn't. And that's what makes it a hard word problem. What I want to know is what's the first term. Every single time it comes down to which formula is it. If you can figure out the formula, you can then start sticking things in the formula, and then you realize what thing you don't know, and then you can solve it. Hint, a lot of people used the wrong formula because they see this u sub 1 and they're like, I'm going to use the u sub n formula. Nope. What was the key word that told you that that was not the right thing? Sum. It says sum. It has to be an S formula. There's 3 S formulas. Is this about infinity? Did it ever say infinity? No, so it's not an infinity one. So then I just got to pick, is it arithmetic or geometric? And it says common difference. That's a D. There's only one formula left that's a sum that has a D in it. And it's the nastiest formula we have. Now I put in some parentheses around the n over 2. Now some kids get away with not having parentheses because they just do that part first. Because see, if you do the n over 2 first, then you're basically putting it in parentheses because that's what parentheses do, is they make you do it first. That's one of the things that makes this test extra hard, is you can't just type them in order on your calculator unless you put in parentheses in the right spots. Or you just do some things first. All right, I'm double checking that I copied that formula right, because that would be a really easy mistake to make. Cool, I copied the formula right. Now I just got to put the numbers in the right place. Sam Lowe, it says common difference equals 5. So what do I do? Where do I put that?
Is it right where it says, is it like right by outside of the parentheses?
Yes, right there. That's where the common difference goes. That 5 goes right there on the D. All right, next. U1. He didn't tell me U1. That's the whole point. I got to figure out U1. So I'm not going to know what it is, so I can't put it in. Then there's only one thing left, N. Of the information they gave me, it's the 6 terms that's the N. And that leaves the 135. That's what this whole thing is supposed to add up to. I would put it right there. Now I know that looks super hard, but after you do a couple little simplifies, I mean, like, y'all know what 6 divided by 2 is. It's 3. And then simplify the rest of it, and then just solve it. You can do this. You can do this. Yes?
Never mind.
This is algebra 2. This is the highest level math that Minnesota thinks that you should have to have in high school. Six minus 1 is 5. 5 times 5 is 25. There we go. 135 equals 3 times the 2u makes 6u1 plus 3 times the 25 is 75. In case you got stuck. Now, solve it. Get it down so you know what u1 is. This is our last problem, you guys. You got this. Oh, crap. There's a one. I just will show you one more thing after this. I can tell you pretty much toast. 60 equals 6u1. You divide by 6, divide by 6. And 60 divided by 6 is 10. 10 was our first term. Raise your hand if you've got 10. Sweet. What was the key to that problem? Figuring out what formula to use and then sticking everything in the formula in the right spots. All right. So I want to show you this one. It sometimes makes people freak out because it's flip-flopping between positive and negative. Could you get that by adding something each time? Could you get that by subtracting something each time? No. It has to be multiply. And it has to be a special kind of multiply. It isn't just times 3. What is it? Negative 3. So if your D is negative 3, that's the whole reason we moved the D on the sheet, because you know how it used to go like this, n minus 1 times D at the end? And if you stick a negative 3 right there, it makes it look like subtract when you're supposed to be multiplying by the D. That's why we moved the D to the front. That way, if you put a negative 3 on it, it'll be multiply. Now, it would have worked if you just did what I said, which is stick it in a parenthesis. Whenever you have a variable like D, stick a parenthesis around it, and then it would have for sure worked. But we moved the D to the front to help that. All right, so now, you have a practice test, and it's a little too long. So I made it evens. Please go in there. Schoology has an open practice test. I'm just going to suggest you do the evens, but be smart about this. You're trying to get ready for a really hard test. If you're just trying to survive this class, math is not your strength and you just want to get through, then just do the evens, okay? Because that's all I'm asking you to do. It keeps it doable, you know. But if you really want an A on this test, maybe you should go look at some of the odds and go, would I be able to do that? Would I be able to do that? Because it's like the practice test, and you don't want to like skip over problems that you would have to do on the real test. All right, let's do number 2 together, because I feel like once you started, you'll be much closer to finishing. Could you just read me number 2?
Arithmetic or geometric, simple 1.
All right, so it must be giving you a sequence.
4, 6, 9, and 13.
13, is that it?
0.5.
Oh, 0.5. Interesting. It felt like it was just going up by something the same each time, but if it's a decimal at the end, it can't just be adding the same thing each time. It must be multiplying. But I got to figure out what it'd be multiplying by. 6 divided by 4 would tell me 1.5. And if I times by 1.5, that actually works. Times by 1.5 is it. So then is it geometric or is it arithmetic? Geometric. All right. Keep going from there. Remember, if you ever get stuck, go, oh, that's right. He told us that it would always come down to figuring out the right formula from the sheet and sticking it in the problem and then figuring out what to plug in the formula. All right? If you get stuck, please look for the formula. All right. And that's all I got for you for the video for today.